It's about growing as a person. Your best is completely unique to you.
All right, everyone. Hi, welcome to episode 4 of Fuck Perfect. Here I'm with Arthur. Actually, how to pronounce your last name, Arthur?
Marroquin.
I would have totally effed that up. Okay. He is an insanely talented photographer. I know I came across you via a friend, and we started working together, and I think we kind of vibe well with each other.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Thank you so much for even being on the podcast. Welcome.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I look forward to it. Yeah. Photographer, actor. I'm out here in LA. I go back between Austin and LA because I have an Austin studio for my photography, and then I shoot out here in LA. And then on the meantime, when I'm not shooting photos, I'm on a set or as any other actor auditioning constantly and getting yeses and getting a lot of no's. Yeah, it's great. It's great. You can check me out on IMDb, everyone. I have started a lot of things. Urban Country, which is now on Hulu, which have like Blue Diamond Phillips and Bryden Charbonneau from The Walking Dead. Santa Jaws, a personal fave from the Sci-Fi Network. Stars my good friend Reed Miller and a bunch of other great people at Havlin Stillwell, and directed by Misty Talley, a kick-ass director.
Wow.
Yeah, and who's directed a lot of other shark movies for Sci-Fi. And yeah, we're from the whole like Sharknado family, and it was great. I loved that experience. Other projects are on there. Handy Dandy. There's like a new title for it. I don't remember. I'll just Devil's Junction, Handy Dandy's Revenge. But I will always remember it as Handy Dandy. Go check them out. Go check out other things on there. Yeah, and then photography. I've been doing it forever.
Yeah. What got you into photography?
So, I've been doing theater all my life.
Yeah.
And I always liked being in front of like on stage or being center of attention more so than being in front of a camera, because in theater when I first started out, and now I'm doing a lot of film acting, the focus was just me being whatever. So I kind of fell in love with America's Next Top Model, which is like the craziest reality show in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's ever watched it, you just know how like insane everybody is on that show. Reality TV. Before we went live, Jeff and I were having a conversation about reality TV, about The Circle and Big Brother and all these other things. But like America's Next Top Model, it's a little different. It's somewhat of a talent-driven reality show. Somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat. A lot of it has to do with the photo shoots, but there's a lot that it's still a reality show at the end of the day. So whoever cries the loudest is going to get a lot of, and yells at someone is going to get a lot of screen time. But yeah, so I was like in this modeling school and like, high school. Anyway, let's be real. I was too short, but I really liked it. And I was like, I can do better photo shoots than that, or I can do that. And then so I joined photojournalism, where my yearbook teacher didn't really teach me anything. Sorry about that to that yearbook teacher, but he didn't. So I kind of had to be like self-taught, and I just learned a lot from America's Next Top Model. So what I did was I had a lot of time on my hands, and I hosted my own top model at my high school and eliminated girls, high school teenage girls, one by one every week on MySpace, on social media, and like they'd get eliminated week by week depending on the photo shoot, whether I was like, all right, we're spilling a lot of paint on you, and whoever has like the least best photos leaving, like, and it was just ridiculous, and people did it, and I really got into it. And then skip from there, I go forward, going to college. I was going to be a theater major, and I was like, I don't have time for photography. I'm all about the craft. All about the craft. So I put like my camera away at the back of my like college dorm like drawer, and then that didn't last long because a classmate was like, hey, I saw you like did photos for like, or that you're a photographer, or that you used to do photos. Can you take my headshots for auditions coming up? Because every like season, if you're a theater major, you know, like
Yeah.
auditions are coming up and you need a headshot. And in the acting world, you need a headshot, which is just like, oh, I have one right here. So, you know, it's a photo of your face that you take, and you're like, hello, hi, I'm auditioning today. Here is what I look like, so you remember when I leave, and my resume that includes all the training and all the money I've spent on doing this. And, you know, and so I took that girl's photos, and then from there, she posted on Facebook, and then everybody contacted me for photos. And it was crazy. I was like, oh, should I study for that government test? Like, no, I've got like these 5 photos to do, like
Right.
five galleries to do. I'm making $100 today. I was charging like $20. Like, you know, I would just meet someone randomly on campus and walk around with a reflector, and I'd be like, let's walk around for an hour and shoot. And then just like, and I'm like, what? Like, I was underworking. I was so like, whatever. Anyway, glad I picked up my rates, but I also got better. I was probably worth $20 at the time.
Right.
So, you know, I've gotten a lot better. And then, but before, like, again, it all started with like fashion and, you know, telling a story, and then it went into headshots. And I've done a lot of headshots, and that's what I'm known for, and I do, but I do a lot of fashion and fitness stuff. We did fitness stuff with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I've always been like big into like health as well and fitness. Like, that's, I think, why I do very well in that category of photography, and also just because like I understand and I know it, and I know it very well.
You know, absolutely you do. I mean, I know when I was, we were in Block Island, we were doing a 10-year renewal of the vows anniversary thing, and I found a different photographer out there, and I was like, hey, maybe I can milk some business photos out of this at the same time.
Send me those photos. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, the shirts on ones are okay, but like the fitness ones, I'm like, where's Arthur?
Thank you.
And it's not really a big slight in the other photographers. They don't have experience doing it.
No, like wedding photography, I mean, I've done it, but it's not my favorite thing. I don't like market myself as a wedding photographer at all. And when someone,
you know what's interesting with the whole concept of the podcast of progress over perfection, I don't know if this is true, but I get the vibe where, like, because you focused on arts, there's been no goal of perfection, right? Because I mean, there can be you can try to seek perfection in the arts, but truly,
you're never gonna get it.
You're never gonna get it. But there almost is no perfect art, right? And that's the best part of art. So when you have that mindset, it's almost like because you're pursuing art and creativity, there's almost no perfection. You get close, right?
Right.
But you almost never actually, other areas you might actually really do strive for perfection, right? Like if you were to probably do, obviously with fashion, perfection and just is almost the goal all the time, even though it's subjective, even though it's changing, right?
Right. And I mean, and that was the thing, I think at one point I did try to be, before I was like, or when I was like on the verge of like really being like, okay, I'm a headshot photographer who does fashion and fitness really well. You know, I remember trying to be like, oh, I can do like weddings. Like I was investing into doing weddings. And then I was like, this isn't my thing. Like I did some weddings, and that's fine. So yeah, like every time I have a headshot session anyway, like some things are great and fall into place, and then some things don't, but that always helps, as well. Same with acting. Like I'm like, oh, like that choice, not that anything is predetermined, but like I'm like, oh, like if this is not hitting, there's a way around it, but nothing's ever perfect. And that's the point of class and training and continuing to develop something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like one time I did this wedding, And I was like, sure, I'll do it. Um, and I didn't know like how to shoot the indoor of like this big church, and I totally messed up the lighting. And I was like, none of those are gonna work. So what I did was I was like, hey, like during like the dinner part, I was, can I just grab the bride and the dad really quick? I'm just gonna have you come down this aisle and like kind of recreate that moment and like wave to the people, but don't worry, I'm gonna block. And I literally just recreated the thing, and I blocked off like the pillars where like
Yeah.
people were sitting. So like they were just waving at nobody, and I'm like, oh my god, no, like I can't do this. Like this is not what I'm doing. It's not what I'm gonna do. People don't need me as a wedding photographer. Like there's, like if I'm getting married, I'm gonna hire a wedding photographer. I'm not gonna just hire a headshot. Like I'm not. Like, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. And so striving, I strive to get better. Like my photos, I take a look at, I mean, those headshots that I was charging $20 for. If I wasn't any better from that though, like I'd be like, well, not what's the point of doing it, but I'm, especially because I'm putting so much into it, I want to get better. But what,
Absolutely. And that's a huge accomplishment that you have in your mindset. Even talking about the time where you were just explaining how you had the bride and the father come over for different lighting. Some people would say like, oh man, I effed that up. You're gonna move on, or I'm just gonna realize I screwed up and that's it. But you were thinking on your feet, like, no, I can fix this. And that's a growth mindset. And the idea that you can get better at something, that's a growth mindset, which shows your goal isn't one point. Your goal is just to always be growing, right?
and well, I've thought about that as well this past week because I have a friend who's in Hamilton, like the musical,
Ooh,
and yeah, and they, a client, and they, like that was their dream goal, you know,
yeah.
and they did it. Like they were in Hamilton. Um,
And then
but
what's
at
next?
the end goal, yeah, like there's something next. Life is like an ever evolving thing. Like I
Yeah,
think like, oh, like in my head, like, oh, once I'm a series regular on a show, like that'll be great. But like I've had many friends who've been series regs on shows who get underutilized, you know. So yeah, like they're receiving a really nice paycheck and they're on TV kind of, but like they're just like not being used much, or they their show gets canceled after one season or 4 episodes in, so
yeah.
every time you think like, oh, like that's it, there's something else after that. Like that's your next goal, but then what is the goal after that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when I work with clients, I have them focus on making different time-based goals. Ones that were immediate, ones that are a little bit out, and then ones that are like just so big that you're gonna have time to get there. Because back in when I first started doing like Tony Robbins stuff and setting goals, doing goal workshop in 2012, I thought I made big goals. Like I thought I made like buy a house in California, double my salary, meet a president that I liked, meet like Tony Horton and stuff. And all of a sudden I did all of it within a year. And
Tony
I'm
Hawk
like,
is such a great goal.
I was like, holy crap, how did I do this? And it's like, because you write it down, you become more aware of those opportunities to kind of go towards them, right?
Yeah.
You're not just
Oh, I
wandering.
believe in the writing it down.
And then when I achieved it, I had that thing where like, well, I don't know what to do next. I thought my goals and I did where they weren't big enough, right? And it's interesting you said too, like you kind of put photography in the background while you're doing theater. I did the same thing. I on the last podcast last week's podcast, I talked with a former therapist who was on the show, and I talked to them how when I was 6, she was asking me how I got involved in all this stuff. When I was 6 years old, I would imagine and pretend that I would be helping women with their problems, and kids would come in, and I would give them my kid books to read while I helped these adult women. And so I was like, always wanted to help people my whole life. But I really got into theater myself in high school, and I majored in theater in college. Uh, and I really liked the idea of perspectives. Like I loved being different people, figuring out what their reason was, why they thought they were right,
Oh
being
yeah.
really open minded. And all that kind of me helping people has took a back seat. And then when I went to start helping people as like, you know, a different kind of coach, can't really name the business, but there's so much money to be had in like you were saying about doing weddings. There's so much money for me to had to help people lose 5 or 10 pounds. And I'm like, man, I'm not really feeling this. I don't really care, you know, like
About
about helping people lose 5 or 10 pounds, like one part of the business. And
got it.
so when I started to kind of tweak what I do, as opposed to like you maybe doing weddings versus me like helping people lose a small amount of weight for 6 months, I want to help people lose maybe not a large amount of weight, but I want it to be like teach you how to fish basically instead of just feeding you the fish.
Right.
So it's like future proof. So that's where I was going. And to segue into that, you were talking about how you were also really into health and fitness too. And so how has focusing on progress there over perfection helped you?
Okay, so I think for fitness, I'm in a very, again, like I'm in front of cameras a lot. It's a very fit, like, you know, anytime you like turn on the TV, there's like a Marvel action hero that's just like, "Rah," like, you
Sure.
know, and so I gotta be fit, you know, and like but it's also important, and also like being healthy, because I mean, it's just such a, I hate that we are so consciously driven by like what we think the media has created for
Mm-hmm.
us. Like this is like the ideal, because I mean, I shoot so many fitness people, and I know how many like the struggles with all of them that they deal with, and just the mind mentality stuff that they've got to deal with it, but also just how not unhealthy it is, but how unhealthy it can become,
Sure.
because a lot of them have, like, not a lot of them, but it's very easy to gain body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always just looked at my body in a, you know, in a different way, but I'm happy with it versus like like perfection. I know will never ever be not a thing, because I mean, like, what is perfect, and everybody's body is different.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I just have to be fine with where I'm at in my own skin, because it's my body, and whether it's comfortable doing what I need to do is in terms of like a character, whether I'm auditioning,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, whether it is just giving me the energy to go out and like do a 5-hour, 8-hour shoot if I'm shooting all day. Um, and
Do you
so
think that the when people focus on having the perfect body, that it creates more pain for them, and then when people like you have focused on just being happy with who you are, but still focusing on progress, that you almost switch from pain to gratitude or happiness?
well, I think, I mean, that's something I'm even doing right now. Like this morning, I mean, I'm just like, oh, progress, great. Like I'm not, again, because even like a bodybuilder's like best body lasts for about like less than 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
they, yeah, they get it on stage, and then they're like, all right, I'm done, bye. A circle is not even perfect, you know,
Mm-hmm.
no perfect circle really. So like we can't, we control what you can, and then just like let the rest go. It's like in acting, a lot of it comes also from like, that comes from acting as well, just where I'm like, you're gonna give the best performance you can, especially like in theater, like every night you get to go out and do a different thing.
Right. Yeah. The idea that where each performance is so unique, and you
Yeah.
have to play off the audience's energy, where there's no such thing as a perfect, like, it's not going to go a certain way. You don't know.
Yeah, and then that's the and that is where technique comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have, sometimes if you're not feeling it, say like, I mean, I've heard people were like you know, sometimes like their house just got on fire, like caught on fire, and they have to like go do the show anyway, or they got broken,
Right.
or they got broken up with, and they have to go do the show, or like they're starving, and you're just thinking in the back. But like if you focus on the technique that you've used to get you where you're gonna get there, because sometimes if you're just not feeling it, a lot of us are not feeling it a lot of the time.
Right, exactly.
You know, like, am I ever really like, oh yeah, I'm feeling the gym today? Like about 3 out of the 5, 6 days, you know, the others I just show up and I do it, and I do what I've been like in my head to do, like what I've been told to do, what I do, and I get it done. Same with acting. Like if you're not feeling it, you go and do it. Same with photography. Like yeah, like sometimes I'm like, got 8 or like 5 shoots today. There's how am I going to do this? I show up and I do it.
You know, that's really astute and interesting observation. I wonder if the show must go on mentality has benefited people like me or you just to show up and do the shit you're supposed to be doing, even if you don't want to do it.
Yes, I believe so. But I think there's a difference in people like you and me. Like I think I mean, at least I think there's a drive to be like, I'm not going to provide blah or shit work, because some people still show up and then like you do like a tricep push that's like, you know, just they do this, or like
Yeah.
I see the people who like are like get on the treadmill and like walk for a minute and they're like, I'm out, or like, you know, or who show up to acting class and who are like, I'm not here, I don't care today.
The first time I taught, so obviously going through theater in high school, my I only had my experience and a few other people. I was serious. It was fun and it was serious. And then in college, obviously you're auditioning into things, and that's very serious. When I started teaching theater to get my degree for education as well, it was theater education combination. Kids didn't show up for the show, and I'm like, that's an option? Like that blew my mind. I was like, how do you just not show, like it did
Like
not occur to
it's
me.
a show.
The actors, they just didn't like, oh, we're not going to show up. We're just like, and I'm like, huh, how am I going to do this one? And I remember like highlighting the parts that were not the, like, you know, part A was missing, part D was missing. So I highlighted the lines. I pulled out audience members. I said, who wants to, like, these little young, I pulled out the youngest kids I could find that read the lines, put on this giant costume, and it actually turned out great. Like it turned out like it was, but people that don't show up, I'm like, holy cow, I did not expect that.
Yeah, and so I mean, if you don't want to show up, I mean,
Right?
I mean, just make sure you're not getting a grade or whatever, that you're letting other people down, but like show up, you know, where you're accountable and where you're needed, and do your job. I mean, that's the thing, and then do your job well. I mean, do your job. A lot of people, I think, try to get by on like doing bare minimum, and they're like,
Sure.
and because I see it, I have friends who are like just wanting to do the bare minimum, and that's fine. But then, like, I would say, don't complain, and that if you're not reaping the rewards or getting the success or the momentum or moving along it where you're going. And again, the whole perfection thing, it's never gonna happen. Like,
Right.
never gonna get. Maybe I will have the perfect audition, and maybe, and probably I have had them, at least in my head. But you know, or you know, perfect photos, whatever. But the thing is, I keep on topping myself, and that's the goal. Like that's the
Right.
goal of anything. Like is to be better than you were the day before, and I think that as humans, like is something that we should always strive for, and that we constantly do strive for. Again, like I know, like we are fundamentally the same people that we are since we were children, but I want to be doing better work than like 12-year-old Arthur, you know,
Yeah, right.
or like 15-year-old photography Arthur. Like if I was doing that, no one would pay me, you know,
Yeah.
no one will
Absolutely.
hire me to act. Like because you know it's the stuff that I've been learning and been teaching and been working on now. And another thing about the perfection stuff, because I can like get anxiety with like emails and the photo, knowing how many like, photos I have to work on. I think the idea, and I got this from Eat That Frog.
Oh yeah.
By Brian.
Great book.
Yeah, by Brian Tracy. if any, you all should read it. It just really lets you know, like, it is fine
It's
to not
simple.
to finish everything. Like, there are times, like, one thing I took away is, like, have your to-do list, get the biggest thing out of your way for at the top of the day,
Hmm.
and then after that, do all the other things. And if you don't finish, you're not gonna finish. That's the thing, you're not gonna finish. And like that was so like mind blowing and just gratifying knowing like, okay, it's okay that I'm not getting that person's photos out immediately because it's in my
Yeah.
contract that it's not getting out. It has a time span, and I don't have to kill myself. I don't have to take away time from my other acting like responsibilities, or I don't have to take away time from my own life and not enjoy my life. You know, because that's the thing too, where some of it can get muddled, especially with business when you try to like you can just kind of lose yourself and you're like I'm a slave to whatever it is. But you know, I'm a person and I should be allowed to just breathe as well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with when I first started reading Eat That Frog myself, one of the biggest takeaways I had is the exact same thing you had was when I thought like I'm not going to get everything done. And I was very of a before that very list completionist. Uh I wanted to have everything scratched off my list, the post-it notes, scratched off my list. I wouldn't like to do things until I had all the right things. Even this podcast, I was starting to think, maybe I need to have these things ready. And I was like, you know what? That defeats the whole point. I'm just going to fucking do it because I don't need to be perfect. I just got to start doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Um, yeah. So I was definitely to have that big takeaway. Like, well, I'm just going to focus on the big, most important things, try to get the little things done. And it's like, whoa, that's a whole different philosophy. Like, same thing with people with problems. They think, oh, I'm going to wait till these problems go away. But like, nope,
Yeah.
it's the ability to handle problems and prioritize them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with that, I mean, like, where you're saying I'm gonna wait for that. I think there's never like a good time for anything. Like, if you
Hmm.
do it, just do it. Like, I, I know people who are like, oh, well, like, I'll find a new job when this happens, or oh, I'll, get out of this relationship if this doesn't change, or if this doesn't, or I'll wait till that. Like, and I've seen it with like
Hmm.
multiple people, friends, people just I know, friends of friends. Like, I see that people just wait and wait and then just like and I see with actors as well who come in for headshots and they're like, oh well, I'm gonna like wait until I have this and until I have that.
Oh god,
Yeah. And
disaster.
yeah, and so like and I'm telling you it's never gonna happen, like unless you do like. And the big move for me when I moved to LA from the Austin market, I was working a lot commercially, and I did, I started booking my first couple of SAG jobs in Austin. But Austin's a smaller market, and there's only like
Hmm.
about like 4 to 5 casting directors, and I know them pretty much all, and they know me. But also, and it has nothing to do with them, but it has to do with the I just wanted more opportunities for other things, especially for TV and film, aside from commercials. And what happened with the Texas market is the film tax incentives, a lot of them like went away. So like companies were shooting early in the earlier 2000s, like shot in Texas because it was cheaper to shoot in Texas. But now they're going. I mean, they're staying in California. They're going to Vancouver. They're going to Atlanta, and they're going
Hmm.
to New Mexico, and they're going to Louisiana because the rebate film tax incentive stuff, like they can get like 40-30% of what they spend on a film back. So like if there's a producer and he's going to spend 10 million on a film, they'll get back 3 million or
Right.
or whatever, or 40, depending, like as long as they hire within state or whatever. And so all those shows went away. And so I was like, nothing is shooting here, or nothing I'm right for, like. And then the auditions that were coming in were co-stars, and so their co-star is under 5 lines, And I'm like, that's not really what I want. Like I'm wanting more. And then when the time does come, when that one show is looking for that one thing that fits me, I have one shot out of the entire year for it. And I was like, and so I kept on telling myself, oh, I'm going to wait for this until I'll book that. And then that's when I'll move, da, 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 da. And I was like, no, like if I wait here, like it just might never come because like the chances are kind of slimmer. Like I can book and work commercially, but also like I'm wanting, so, I got my Louisiana, Atlanta agent, and then I moved there to New York, to LA. And then like, and I mean, it things change. And obviously like it's different, but that's the thing, like striking on it, because if you just like wait, like, yes, making sure that things
Right.
like fall into place. Like I had to make sure I had money to move and like a place to live and things like that. But I mean, I have many people who come to me in terms of their own business, like, like they're an actor and like we look at ourselves as a business. Like they come to me one year and then they get photos and we get great photos, and then I give them all this advice they ask, or they, even just what to do there. Then they come back and then nothing has changed. And then I get the new photos and I'm like, well, what was the point of the last photos? Like, I hate people like wasting money. Like I love people giving me money, but I don't want to waste it.
You know what's interesting about that? It's the same concept with health and fitness. As I see so many times people will say, the fitness industry will say, well, you didn't succeed because you didn't have this new product. And they keep making you put the money in the new product when the actual problem, and people don't like it when they hear this, is the problem is them and their effort and not the actual product. Because you could lose weight and get abs almost on any program or any diet. But the thing is, like, are you showing up, putting in the work consistently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a thing. And so back health wise, I mean, I was a coach for once upon a time, right after college. And like, yeah, like people all want to like lose weight and look good and feel good, or like, just be able to fit into like another pant size that they have in their closet.
Sure.
That they fit. But a lot of people are not willing to put in work, whether it is health and fitness, like, it's, or any other business. Like you have to be putting it in. And like I just had a friend, like I did have another client though. He put in the effort. Like he came to me, got photos, and then after he'd lost like 40 pounds, and then he came back another time because he went down to like, a much lower body fat and lost another 20 pounds. And so but he put in the time, like he put in the effort, he put in the right thing. And yeah. And again, that's the thing with perfection, again, waiting till everything is lined up and perfect.
Right. So you're still doing photography, you're still doing headshots and things like that. How would you like people to kind of reach out to you if they hear the podcast?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram.
I'll put your link
Yeah,
in.
I'm sure at Arthur Marroquin, or at official ABM Photography, which is the Instagram for the photography page, or abmpix.com.
Awesome.
That's like the website where they can like contact me, but they can contact me either place. Go order photos from me in LA or Austin, sometimes New York.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, it was a pleasure having you today, Arthur. Thank you so much.
I hope we touched on everything that you wanted to.
Yeah. And if we didn't, who cares?
Yeah.